Hi there, I'm David, and today we're going to talk about Teslabot. Teslabot was given the endearing nickname of Optimus, or codename Optimus Subprime. Alright, so what is it, why is it, etc., etc. There are so many different things that we can explore here, the implications in economics and various other spheres, but let's break down the brass tacks of it at first. So Tesla is a car company, and a lot of people think that's all they do, but really they're a robotics and autonomy company. Elon Musk had said that the cars that they create are semi-sentient. Are they really semi-sentient? Are they really thinking for themselves? There was some fascinating work that I had seen done by their team where they were mapping out the roads of different areas and trying to figure out what the cars were doing when they were taking different intersections. And imagine that there are lanes in this road here. We'll just imagine this is a one-way road. What happens is that these cars, they pick every potential path to cross lanes in the future. So what's going to potentially happen in the future as other cars are in the lane to their left or to their right. And in some cases, they were testing a turn in this direction, but there were cars, so they would see the projection that the car would make, and it would make a lot of them before finally coming to or making a decision on which way to proceed. So you could say that it is critically thinking, and it is coming to terms with reality around it, and it is observing things and making its own decisions. Does that really count as semi-sentient? That's a very good question. Consciousness is something that's philosophically been debated for centuries, if not thousands and thousands of years. Even back in the days of Aristotle and before, consciousness was always a hot topic. As somebody that talks about quantum physics and teaches you about various mechanisms... English today is hard. As someone who talks and teaches quantum physics to you, there's the observer effect, which is very interesting to note. And if we ever really want to truly measure consciousness, the minimum universal requirement for consciousness, we would have to understand the minimum amount of observer that is required to cause a wave to snap into a particle. Now, mind you, it may not have to do with a conscious observer, but it's a very fascinating point to follow up on. I'd love to see research on that someday. Let's drive on to talk about the Teslabot. It was unveiled in a very theatric way, and of course the dancing robot that was shown on stage was not really a robot, it was a person in a costume. And mind you, the visuals or the appearance of the Teslabot will change over time. He said that it's a close approximation, more or less, in other words, but it's quite fascinating the way that it looks already. So, about 10 years ago, they'd already started using radar within their cars, testing that, and then they changed over to camera-based systems, which has created a lot of different difficulties and challenges for them, but it's also yielded many positive results. Typically, the problems come about when dealing with blind spots. You might be able to map out the curbs of an area, but when it comes to a smaller vehicle off to your left or to your right, the cameras can't always see every single position around the vehicle. But if you've ever seen the mapping systems that they utilize, if they were able to pack that into a robot inside of its core or wherever they decide to do it, it could have fantastic implications. And this means that you wouldn't necessarily need to train it on every single situation. It would be a generic robot for generic needs. So it would most likely be utilized at first for menial or laborious tasks that are usually routine or kind of not interesting. But that does mean a lot about labor in the economy and various other things, which we will get to in a moment. They also unveiled the Dojo supercomputer system, which will be later put into something called an exapod, which has a ridiculous amount of computing power. It's something like a GPU with a CPU system that can work together in a way that makes it so that machine learning algorithms can train in a way that is very quick compared to any of the competition that's out there. So essentially what they did was they looked at all of the state-of-the-art stuff and they improved upon it way, way farther than anybody else had thought possible at the current moment. Or essentially, you take the state-of-the-art right now and then you have the Dojo computer system. Now the chip itself is called the D1 chip, or Dojo 1, I think is the actual name of it. It has 4 times the performance, 5 times smaller footprint, and also is 1.3 times of an energy reduction with the same cost as a general training situation that you would have. The chip itself is capable of 9 petaflops. Peta? I'm going to mispronounce this most likely. The chip is capable of 9 petaflops. Might be peta, might be peta. I actually don't normally use that word. When I use numbers, I do it one by one because it's usually in regards to astrophysics, and I'm not focused so much on that. Yeah. 9 petaflops and 36 terabytes per second of I/O in-out bandwidth, which is phenomenal. And it also takes up less than 1 cubic foot or 0.3 cubic meters. That's ridiculous. The thing was huge when he was holding it up, and they're going to be able to connect them together with an incredible amount of bandwidth so that they don't lose a lot of power and speed between the units themselves. So the Exapod is going to be a state-of-the-art supercomputer for machine learning. It's crazy if you think about it. The Exapod is going to be quite large, but it's also going to be absolutely fascinating once they really get into it. So what are some of the characteristics of the Teslabot? Well, what we know so far is that it will be able to carry 20 kilograms or about plus or minus 45 pounds, 44 and some change. It'll be able to deadlift 80 kilograms or 176 pounds, and its speed will be no more than 8 kilometers per hour or 5 miles per hour. The Teslabot is a fascinating potential marvel of technology, and it may have serious implications for the economy in the future. Or it might be a flop. We have no idea. So why is it important to our society? There are so many tasks and things that people do not want to do. They've seen during the past few years that they don't want to slave away at different positions or in different jobs, and various manufacturers can't find workers. Teslabot will be able to fill the gaps where there are many people who will either choose or choose not to do menial labor or simple repetitive tasks. Of course, there are some people that absolutely live for those jobs. For example, many years ago, I absolutely loved when I would, instead of doing my main tasks, just go do menial labor because it meant that I could, be outside and get some exercise in. Now, mind you, I don't normally live for that. It's not something that I'm super excited to go do every single day, but sometimes it's a nice break. But what happens when you don't want to do it? Maybe you're on a farm, for example, and you don't want to throw the hay bales all day long. Well, if you have a Teslabot and you give it specific instructions that are pretty generic, you just tell it, take this and put it over there, well, you've just taken care of it for yourself. Of course, this may have social implications in the future when it comes to laziness and our ability to take care of ourselves, but hopefully that doesn't become a negative too quickly and too badly. Some of the competitors of Tesla in regards to robotics would be Boston Dynamics and many of the challenges and contests that DARPA proposes. For example, at present, if you were to go to the DARPA website, darpa.mil, you would find that there is a subterranean challenge for robots that may be able to navigate and work underground, which is absolutely fascinating. They have projects like Manta Ray for oceanic and aquatic robotics, so autonomous drones that are able to operate in the water. And there are numerous applications out there for many of the different types of technologies. Some of the robots that you may know very well from Boston Dynamics are Spot, Stretch, Pick, and Atlas. Atlas most likely is something that you've seen where it does the backflip, and it can repeat that, it can correct itself when it's standing, and it's on 2 legs. It is a bipedal robot. It's quite a fascinating piece of machinery. And it's able to navigate itself in the snow, correct its own stance. They can push it, move the boxes that they want it to carry, and it corrects itself and goes chasing after it. Spot is the one that's a quadrupedal or 4-legged robot, and it can have a little arm that comes up over top to take care of various things. There was a very nice advertisement that they had created over the past few years for Spot. I hadn't seen Stretch or Pick previously to this, but that's all right. They look like very interesting pieces of machinery that look very accurate, and I can't wait to see what they can do. I'm gonna have to go check them out later. So when it comes to labor, what happens to the economy when there are less people working because of robotics taking people's jobs? So when it comes to autonomous tasks and automation, there are many different tools out there that can handle maybe scheduling posts for Twitter for the social media account of a business. That doesn't mean that the company doesn't still need a copywriter to produce the tweets or the posts that they're going to put up on the internet, but it does mean that everything is scheduled and not needing to be done on time by an individual, so that person's job is now gone. Now, there are different types of artificial intelligence or neural networks that are able to create texts, although typically nonsensical and may contain some offensive language, if you will. However, these tools will probably eventually run people out of the jobs that they have currently if they are in a writing profession. Now, of course, no one is ever going to be able to replace a human entirely when it comes to creative storytelling and so forth. But there will be certain things like search engine optimization that will be overtaken by these. GDP itself in the expenditure model is consumer spending, government expenditures, investments, and net exports as a sum. And as the income model, or the income equation, it has to do with the total national income, sales taxes collected from the people, depreciation of the goods and products that are already in existence, such as the loss of value of a building or a car over time, and net foreign factor income. Net foreign factor income is the difference between citizens of that country creating an income abroad and those creating an income domestically. So what happens if you take away all the jobs? You replace everybody with a robot? Well, you're going to have some problems with sales taxes. You're going to have trouble with not necessarily the total national income, but you will have some trouble with the net foreign factor income because you're going to have less income per citizen. When it comes to the expenditure model, consumer spending will likely go down because people aren't going to be able to buy something if they don't have a job to earn money. And investments on homes and various other real estate or real goods and tangible properties and such are going to go down as well. Of course, there are other types of investments, but that's what I'm going to focus on for our example here. Elon Musk had proposed universal basic income, as have many others, when it comes to introducing automated tasks and robots, bots, etc. into the workforce, where jobs are going to be lost. While a universal basic income may look really good on paper, it could present some possible problems in the future. Of course, we've talked a bit about modern monetary theory and various other economic systems that could be in place. Universal basic income is a very interesting concept, but its practicality has yet to be seen, really. Of course, there have been experiments that have been successful and experiments that have failed, because when you introduce universal basic income, who's going to want to do the work that a robot can't? For example, the creative writing of a novel or of a screenplay. If a robot doesn't have heart, emotion, how is he or she or it going to be able to create a tear-jerking story if it has no idea what emotions love or loss are really like? If you have any questions or comments or even concerns, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this subject. It's a very fascinating one, and I'd love to see the implications of this in the future. For me personally, I would love to see a world where robots are able to pick up a lot of what we can and can't do, so that we as humans can focus more on technological development, cultural and social progress in a way that is not detrimental to our society or contradictory to what we are as a species, humans. Don't forget to check out other videos, subscribe, leave a comment, ring the bell, like and share, and we'll see you next time.